I'm Park Ji-hoon, by the way, the distinguished businessman said, his warm smile never wavering as he extended his hand once more. And I didn't get your name. Nala opened her mouth to respond, but before a single syllable could escape, she felt it. A presence behind her, solid and imposing, radiating cold authority that made the air feel thinner. Minho had returned. His hand landed on the small of her back, not gentle, not casual, but possessive, claiming a brand of ownership that announced itself without words. The touch sent electricity shooting up her spine, and not the pleasant kind. This was the touch of a man marking territory. "This is my wife." The words dropped like a bomb in the space between them. Nala felt them reverberate through her body, felt the weight of that claim settle over her like chains. Park Ji-hoon's eyebrows shot up, his expression transforming from charming interest to genuine surprise. And then, if Nala wasn't mistaken, something else entirely. Something calculating and intrigued. Wife? Ji-hoon's eyes darted between them, landing on Nala with renewed fascination. Minho, see, I had no idea you'd married. This is quite the surprise. Congratulations are in order. But his gaze lingered on Nala, traveling over her face, her dress, the way she stood stiffly under Minho's possessive touch. The word wife seemed to have made her more interesting rather than less. A married woman, especially one married to the notoriously cold Kang Minho, made the game infinitely more compelling. "When did this happen?" Ji-hoon pressed, his smile widening with genuine curiosity. "You've been keeping secrets, my friend." "Recently." Minho's voice was clipped, offering nothing. His hand on Nala's back pressed harder, pulling her fractionally closer to his side. "Nala Thompson. My wife." Nala's breath caught at the introduction. Nala Thompson. Not Nala Kong. He wasn't giving her his name, wasn't claiming her as fully his in the way that mattered. Just my wife, with her maiden name still attached like a temporary label. Ji-hoon caught it too. She saw the flash of understanding in his intelligent eyes. Saw him file that information away for future use. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs." Ji-hoon let the title hang in the air, unfinished, testing the waters, seeing if Minho would correct it to Mrs. Kang. The pause stretched. Minho's jaw tightened visibly, but he didn't correct it, didn't give her his name. "Thompson?" Nala filled in quietly, her voice smaller than she wanted it to be. "Just Thompson." Ji-hoon's smile never faltered, but his eyes sharpened with interest. "Mrs. Thompson, then. Though I have to say, that dress is absolutely exquisite on you. Emerald green was definitely the right choice. Your husband has excellent taste." He lifted her hand, the one Minho wasn't controlling, and kissed it again. Slower this time, more deliberately. His eyes locked on Minho's face the entire time. Watching. Measuring the reaction. Minho's hand on her back tightened to the point of pain, his fingers digging into the fabric of her dress, hard enough to leave marks. "So tell me, Mrs. Thompson," Ji-hoon continued smoothly, finally releasing her hand, but making no move to step back. "How did you two meet? I'm fascinated by the story. Minho-si has always been so dedicated to his work. I never imagined anyone could capture his attention long enough for marriage. It was..." Nala started, but Minho cut her off. "Through family connections," he said sharply. "Nothing dramatic. Now, if you'll excuse us, I need to..." "Oh, but I'm so curious." Ji-hoon's enthusiasm seemed genuine, his attention fully on Nala now, deliberately excluding Minho from the conversation. "And you, Mrs. Thompson? Where are you from originally? Your accent is lovely. American? British?" Nala tried again. "She's African," Minho interrupted again, his voice hard with barely concealed irritation. "Born in the States. Now, Ji-hoon-si, we really should discuss the merger proposal." "The merger can wait." Ji-hoon waved his hand dismissively, his eyes never leaving Nala's face. "I'm much more interested in getting to know your beautiful wife. After all, if you and I are going to be working closely together, and we are, the paperwork is nearly finalized, then your wife and I will be seeing quite a bit of each other at various functions and events. He turned to address her directly, his smile warm and inclusive in a way that made her feel seen. "What do you do, Mrs. Thompson? Are you in business as well? The arts? I'm always fascinated by what drives people." Nala's mouth opened and closed. What could she say? "I sold myself to pay my father's debt. And now I'm playing house with a man who hates me." Minho started. "I can answer for myself," Nala said suddenly, surprising herself with the edge in her voice. She was tired of being spoken over, spoken for, treated like a doll with no voice. Both men looked at her with surprise. Minho's hand on her back tightened in warning. She hesitated, then decided on a version of the truth. "I'm in transition right now, adjusting to a new life here in Seoul. It's been an adjustment." "I can only imagine," Ji-hoon said with what seemed like genuine sympathy. "Moving to a new country, new culture, new language, that takes remarkable courage. And to do it all for love." His eyes flicked meaningfully to Minho, then back to her. "That's quite romantic." The word love hung in the air like a bitter joke. Nala felt Minho's entire body tense beside her. "My wife is still learning about the social expectations here," Minho said, his voice dropping into that dangerous calm that Nala had learned to fear. "She comes from a very simple background, still adjusting to this world." The words landed like a slap. Nala's face burned with humiliation as several nearby conversations paused. People were listening, now watching this exchange with barely concealed interest. Simple background. He'd said it with just enough condescension to make it clear what he meant. She wasn't good enough for this world, wasn't sophisticated enough, wasn't one of them. Ji-hoon's expression darkened, his charming smile faltering for the first time. "I find that people from simple backgrounds often have the clearest perspective on complex problems," he said, his voice carrying an edge of disapproval directed squarely at Minho. "They're not blinded by privilege and assumption. Some of the most intelligent people I've met came from humble beginnings." He turned back to Nala, his smile warm again. "I'd love to hear your perspective on things sometime, Mrs. Thompson. I think you'd find I'm a very good listener." "That won't be necessary," Minho said sharply. "My wife's time is quite limited." "I'm sure we can find time," Ji-hoon countered smoothly, and Nala could feel the power play happening over her head. Two men using her as a chess piece in some game she didn't understand. A chime rang through the venue. Dinner was being served. "Ah, perfect timing," Ji-hoon said. "May I have the pleasure of escorting you both to your table? I believe we're seated together." How fortuitous. Minho's jaw could have been carved from stone. How fortuitous indeed. The seating arrangement was a nightmare made manifest. They were at a table with Ji-hoon and 3 other business associates, all Korean men in expensive suits who looked at Nala with varying degrees of curiosity and judgment. But Ji-hoon had somehow maneuvered to sit directly across from her, positioning himself with a clear view of her face, while Minho sat stiffly at her side. Throughout the first course, Ji-hoon directed nearly every comment toward Nala, asking her opinions on Seoul, on Korean culture, on the art displayed in the venue. He treated her like her thoughts mattered, like she was intelligent and worth listening to. "What do you think of the piece in the entrance hall?" Ji-hoon asked, gesturing with his wineglass. "The modern sculpture by Kim Soo-ja. I found it quite provocative." Nala started, actually having formed thoughts about the twisted metal piece that had caught her eye on the way in. "My wife doesn't know much about art," Minho interrupted smoothly, not even looking at her. "She's still learning about Korean culture and aesthetics. It takes time." The dismissal stung worse than a slap. Nala's hand tightened on her fork, her appetite disappearing despite the beautiful food in front of her. "Really?" Ji-hoon's eyes narrowed slightly. "And here I thought understanding art was more about emotional intelligence than cultural education. But perhaps you're right, Minho-si. Perhaps some people are simply born with refined taste, while others must learn it." The dig was subtle but unmistakable. Several people at the table shifted uncomfortably. When the main course arrived, Nala reached for her wine glass, needing something to do with her hands, needing the liquid courage. But as her fingers touched the stem, Minho's hand shot out and moved the glass just out of her reach. It was subtle enough that no one else might have noticed. But Nala did. And from the flash in Ji-hoon's eyes, so did he. A power play. A reminder of who controlled what, even down to whether she could drink. "The wine here is excellent," Ji-hoon commented, taking a deliberate sip from his own glass while looking at Nala. "Would you like me to recommend something, Mrs. Thompson? I'm something of a wine enthusiast." "She's fine," Minho said coldly, before Nala could respond. Ji-hoon's eyebrows rose slightly, his gaze flickering between them with growing interest. "Is she?" He paused, then asked, with what seemed like genuine concern, "Oh, forgive me. Are you expecting? I should have asked before offering wine." Wait. If you're new here and just discovered this story, welcome to Seoul Star's family. You just jumped into the most dramatic part of this story. Hit that subscribe button so you wouldn't miss any mind-blowing stories from this channel. Check the description to binge this from part 1. Tell me, what time is it over there and where are you watching from? No. Both Minho and Nala spoke at the same time, their voices overlapping in sharp denial. The speed and force of their simultaneous response drew curious glances from others at the table. Nala felt her face flush with embarrassment at the question, at the implication of intimacy it carried. Pregnant? With Minho's child? The idea was laughable. They barely touched, barely spoke beyond necessity. The thought of them being close enough, intimate enough, to create life together felt absurd. "No, I'm not pregnant," Nala said more quietly, looking down at her plate. "Just being cautious about her alcohol intake." Minho added smoothly, though his jaw was tight. "She doesn't handle wine well. Gets headaches." It was a lie. Nala had never told him anything about how she handled alcohol. He was making up excuses, controlling even this small thing. Ji-hoon's expression showed he didn't quite believe the explanation, but he nodded graciously. "Of course. Very considerate of you, Minho-si. Though perhaps Mrs. Thompson could decide for herself what she can handle?" The subtle challenge hung in the air. "She's fine," Minho repeated, his voice harder now, brooking no argument. The conversation turned to business instantly, the real business that men like Minho conducted in shadows and careful euphemisms. Nala tried to follow, tried to understand the world Minho inhabited. "The dollar's strength right now makes it an interesting time," one of the associates was saying, especially with the Fed's latest moves. "Perfect cover for certain transactions." "We're looking at diversification," Ji-hoon added, his eyes on Minho. "Moving some operations stateside, cleaner channels through American markets. Crypto's the real opportunity," another man chimed in. "Untraceable, liquid, operates outside traditional banking oversight. Perfect for our kind of ventures." Nala's ears perked up. She'd actually done research on cryptocurrency, had read articles, watched videos, tried to understand the financial systems that might be relevant to Minho's world. When there was a lull in the conversation, she ventured a comment. "Wouldn't the volatility be an issue, though?" Her voice was quiet but clear. Bitcoin dropped 30% last quarter. And with the SEC increasing scrutiny on exchanges, using crypto for large transactions could actually draw more attention rather than less. The blockchain might be anonymous, but every transaction leaves a permanent record. The table went silent. Several men looked at her with surprise. Ji-hoon's expression transformed into genuine interest. Ji-hoon started. "That's not something you need to concern yourself with." Minho cut her off, his voice flat and dismissive. He turned to address one of the other men at the table, completely ignoring her. "The volatility is manageable if you're strategic about timing." Nala's face burned. She'd actually researched, had actually tried to understand his world so she wouldn't embarrass him. And he'd shot her down like she was a child trying to join an adult conversation. Ji-hoon's expression had gone from charming to genuinely angry. Actually, Mrs. Thompson raises an excellent point. The blockchain transparency is precisely what's been concerning my team about crypto as a primary channel. Perhaps you'd like to elaborate on your thoughts? He was giving her an opening, trying to salvage her dignity. But Minho's cold shoulder had already done its damage. Nala shook her head, looking down at her plate. It's nothing. I'm sure I misunderstood. I doubt that very much, Ji-hoon said softly, and the gentleness in his tone made tears threaten at the corners of her eyes. The conversation continued, the men discussing offshore accounts, shell corporations, ways to move money through legitimate-looking American businesses, digital wallets, and untraceable transfers. The kind of talk that made it clear exactly what kind of business Minho was really in. And the beauty of the US market, Minho was saying, is the sheer volume of transactions. Easy to hide trees in a forest, especially with the right front operations. And crypto for the international transfers, Ji-hoon added. Convert to stable coins, move through multiple wallets, cash out through legitimate exchanges, layer it properly, and even the feds can't trace it back. Nala listened, understanding more than they probably realized. Understanding exactly what her husband did. Not just business. Money laundering, hiding the proceeds from whatever illegal operations he ran, making dirty money clean. She'd married a criminal, not just a cold, cruel man. An actual criminal. The rest of dinner was torture. Every time Ji-hoon tried to include her, Minho found a way to diminish her. Every kindness from the stranger across the table was met with cruelty from the husband at her side. By the time dessert arrived, Nala felt like she might shatter into pieces. If you'll excuse me, she managed, her voice barely steady, I need to use the restroom. She stood before Minho could respond, before he could deny her even this small escape. Her heels clicked on the marble floor as she fled, feeling eyes following her, hearing the whispers start the moment she was far enough away. The bathroom was a sanctuary of marble and gold fixtures, blessedly empty. Nala gripped the edge of the sink, staring at her reflection. The beautiful dress, the perfect makeup, the hollow eyes of a woman who was dying by inches in a beautiful cage. Her hands shook as she tried to reapply lipstick, the simple task suddenly feeling impossible. The tears she'd been holding back threatened to spill, and she blinked rapidly, trying to keep her mascara from running. Why? Why did he bring her here just to humiliate her? Why claim her so possessively at the beginning of the evening just to tear her down throughout dinner? Are you all right? Nala spun around to find Park Ji-hoon standing in the hallway just outside the bathroom entrance. Inappropriate, but somehow she couldn't bring herself to care about propriety right now. I'm fine, she lied, her voice cracking on the words. Ji-hoon stepped closer, his expression genuinely concerned. No, you're not, and you don't have to pretend with me. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. The way he treats you, I saw it all through dinner. The dismissals, the subtle cruelties, the control. That's not how you treat someone you love. The kindness in his voice was her undoing. Tears spilled over despite her best efforts, and she turned away, mortified. I'm sorry, she managed. I shouldn't. This is inappropriate. He doesn't deserve you. Ji-hoon's voice was suddenly closer. She felt his hand on her arm, gentle, asking permission rather than taking. The way he speaks to you, about you, I would never... He paused, seemed to catch himself. A woman like you should be treasured, not whatever this is. Nala looked up at him, and in his eyes she saw something she hadn't seen in so long. Genuine kindness. Not pity, not judgment, just humanity. I don't even know why I'm telling you this, she whispered. You're his business partner. I shouldn't... Forget business, Ji-hoon said quietly. Right now, I'm just a person talking to another person who looks like she's drowning. And I'm telling you, you don't have to drown. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card, pressing it into her hand. His fingers lingered on hers, warm and solid. If you ever need anything, a friend, someone to talk to, an escape from all of this, call me. I mean it. Day or night. Nala stared at the card, her vision blurring with tears. An escape. He was offering her an escape. I can't, she started. You can? He said firmly. You deserve better than what I witnessed tonight. Remember that. What the hell is going on here? The voice was cold enough to freeze blood. Nala's head snapped up to see Minho standing at the end of the hallway, and the expression on his face was murder. He crossed the distance in 3 long strides, his hand wrapping around Nala's arm and yanking her away from Ji-hoon with enough force to make her stumble. Don't touch my wife, Minho snarled, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Ji-hoon didn't back down, didn't show fear. Instead, he straightened to his full height, meeting Minho's fury with cold steel. Your wife was upset, Ji-hoon said evenly. I was offering comfort, something you seem fundamentally incapable of providing. Stay away from her. Minho's hand on Nala's arm tightened to the point of pain. She's not your concern. She's a person, not property, Ji-hoon shot back, his voice hardening with disapproval. Though I'm beginning to wonder if you understand the difference. The way you treated her at dinner was disgraceful. How I treat my wife is none of your goddamn business. It becomes my business when I see someone being mistreated right in front of me. Stop! Nala's voice cut through the testosterone-fueled standoff, sharp and breaking. Both of you, just stop. She yanked her arm out of Minho's grip, or tried to. His fingers were like iron, not letting her go. She turned on him with fury born of humiliation and pain. You humiliate me in front of everyone, treat me like I'm stupid and worthless, dismiss everything I say like I'm a child. Her voice was rising, cracking, but she couldn't stop. But the moment someone shows me basic human kindness, you act like I'm yours? Like you have some claim on me? Tears streamed down her face now, her careful makeup running, and she didn't care. Make up your mind what I am to you. The words tore from her throat, like they were dragging pieces of her soul with them. She broke off, her breath coming in gasps, her whole body shaking. People had gathered. She could see them in her peripheral vision. Elegantly dressed people with phones out, capturing this moment, this breakdown, this public humiliation that would be dissected and discussed in society circles for weeks. This was exactly what Minho had wanted to avoid. A scene, a spectacle. We're leaving. Minho's voice was arctic. Now. Let her choose, Ji-hoon interjected. Let her decide if she wants to go with you. This is between me and my wife, Minho bit out, every word sharp as broken glass. Back, off. Minho's grip on her arm never loosened as he practically dragged her through the venue, past the entrance hall with its provocative sculpture she'd never gotten to talk about, out into the cool night air where their car waited. He opened the door and practically shoved her inside, then walked around to the driver's side. The car roared to life, and he peeled out of the parking area with enough force to throw her back against the seat. The silence in the car was suffocating. Minho drove with white knuckles gripping the steering wheel. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. He'd sent the driver away, needed to be in control of something, needed the violence of speed and control under his hands. Nala sat as far from him as the car would allow, pressing herself against the door, still clutching Ji-hoon's business card in her hand. She stared out the window at Seoul blurring past, the city lights making everything look beautiful and distant and unreal. She felt numb, hollowed out, like something inside her had finally broken beyond repair. They were halfway back to the penthouse when Minho finally spoke, his voice tight with controlled fury. What the hell was that back there? Nala didn't respond, couldn't find the energy to engage. I asked you a question. His voice got harder, colder. What were you thinking? Letting him get that close to you? Taking his card? Making a scene? I didn't make a scene, Nala said quietly, still staring out the window. You made a scene. You and your jealousy and your need to control everything. Jealousy? Minho's laugh was bitter. You think this is about jealousy? What else would you call it? Nala turned to look at him, her exhausted eyes meeting his furious ones. You humiliate me all evening, then lose your mind when someone treats me like a human being. What is that if not jealousy? It's about respect. His voice rose sharply. About you understanding your place. About not embarrassing me in front of important business associates. My place? Nala's voice was rising too now. Weeks of suppressed rage finally breaking through. What place is that exactly? The place where I'm supposed to sit quietly and look pretty while you dismiss everything I say. The place where I'm supposed to lower your voice. The command was sharp, dangerous. Remember who you're talking to. Is that a threat? Her voice dropped, but it shook with emotion. It's a reminder. Minho's voice was deadly calm now, which was somehow worse than his anger. You're in this car because I'm driving it. You're wearing that dress because I paid for it. You're going back to a penthouse because it's mine. Everything in your life right now exists because of my mercy. He glanced at her, his eyes hard and cold in the passing streetlights. So when I tell you to lower your voice, when I tell you to remember your place, I'm not being cruel. I'm being factual. You are at my mercy. Your father is alive at my mercy. And if you forget that, if you start thinking you have power here, I'll be happy to remind you exactly how powerless you really are. Nala felt something die inside her. Something that had been holding on, hoping, believing that maybe underneath his cruelty, there was something human. I understand, she whispered, turning back to the window. Do you? Minho's voice was still hard. Because from where I'm sitting, you seem to keep forgetting. Keep pushing boundaries. Keep making scenes. I won't forget again, Nala said, her voice completely empty now. I understand exactly what I am, what this is. I won't forget. The rest of the drive passed in silence. When they pulled into the garage, Minho killed the engine and sat there for a moment, his breathing heavy. He got out of the car, slamming the door hard enough to make the whole vehicle shake. Nala scrambled out after him, following him to the elevator. They rode up in tense silence, but the moment the penthouse door closed behind them, the dam broke. And what was that? Minho rounded on her, pointing back toward the door like he could still see the event venue. A man being nice to me? Nala shot back. Is that so shocking? Is basic human kindness so foreign to you that you can't recognize it? He wasn't being nice. Minho's voice was ragged now, something desperate underneath the anger. He was making a move. He was positioning himself, getting close to you, trying to what? Nala stepped closer. Her fear burned away by fury. Treat me like a person? Make me feel like I matter? Make me feel like I'm worth listening to? You don't understand men like him. I don't understand you. The words ripped from her throat. You've made it clear from day one that I'm nothing to you. A transaction, a pawn in your game with your mother. You called me simple in front of everyone. You humiliate me constantly. So tell me, why does it matter if someone else doesn't treat me like garbage? Because you're mine! The words exploded from Minho like they'd been building pressure for weeks. For 2 years, you're mine, and I don't share what's mine. She yanked Ji-hoon's business card from where she'd been clutching it and threw it at him. It fluttered between them before landing at his feet. He gave me that, she said, her voice breaking. Said if I ever need a friend or an escape, to call him. And you know what? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll take him up on that offer because at least he doesn't make me feel like I'm nothing. Minho's face went completely still. He bent down, picked up the business card, and looked at it with an expression that sent chills down her spine. Too calm, too controlled, the eye of the hurricane. If you contact him, Minho's voice was deadly quiet, we're done. I'll consider it breach of contract. Your father's debt comes back, with interest, all of it. The threat hung in the air like a knife. Nala felt the blood drain from her face. You would ruin my father because a man was nice to me? I'd ruin him because you violated our agreement. What agreement? Her voice was barely a whisper now. What part of our contract says I can't have a friend? Can't talk to people? Can't exist as a human being? The part where you're my wife, Minho said, and his voice had gone cold enough to freeze. Not his friend, not his project, mine. What kind of monster are you? The question escaped before she could stop it. Minho stepped closer, and she saw something flash in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or recognition, quickly buried under ice. The kind who keeps what's his. His hand came up like he might touch her face, but then he tore the business card in half instead and let the pieces flutter to the floor at her feet. Remember that. Nala stared at the torn card, then at him, and something inside her just gave up. What am I to you? Her voice was so quiet, so tired. Really, what am I? The question hung between them. For a long moment, Minho didn't answer, just looked at her like he was trying to solve an equation that didn't have a solution. His jaw worked like he was physically forcing words down. Then his expression hardened into something cold and familiar. You have no right to ask me that question. His voice was flat, emotionless, the tone he used for business negotiations. Especially since I'm doing you a favor. Or have you forgotten that your father would be dead right now if it wasn't for me? That you came to me, offered yourself, begged me to save him? Each word was a knife, precise and perfectly placed to do maximum damage. I gave you a way out. I gave you a solution. And this, he gestured at the torn business card, at her tears, at the space between them, is how you repay that favor? By making scenes at important events? By accepting phone numbers from men who want to use you to get to me? Nala felt something inside her crack so deeply she wondered if she'd ever be whole again. Don't forget your place, Minho said, his voice like ice cutting through her soul. And don't forget what you owe me. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. She heard his bedroom door open and close with a decisive click that sounded like a cell door locking. Nala stood alone in the living room, staring at the torn pieces of business card at her feet, her vision blurred with tears. Her whole body shook. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold the broken pieces together, but they kept slipping through her fingers. She made it to her room on autopilot, locked the door behind her, and collapsed. The beautiful emerald dress that had made her feel like Cinderella now felt like a costume from a play where she'd forgotten all her lines. She struggled out of it with shaking hands, let it fall in a puddle of expensive fabric, and pulled on the same cheap pajamas from that morning. Nala climbed into bed and pulled the covers over her head, like she used to do as a child when the world felt too big and scary. But she wasn't a child anymore, and the monster wasn't under the bed. He was sleeping down the hall. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She didn't want to look at it, didn't want to face whatever fresh hell was waiting, but her hand reached for it anyway. A message from an unknown number that she somehow knew was Ji-hoon. He'd found her. Had someone tracked down her information with the efficiency that came from power and connections. The message was simple. I hope tonight didn't end too badly for you. You deserve better than what I witnessed. My offer stands. Always, J.H. Nala stared at the message, at this stranger who'd shown her more kindness in one evening than her husband had in weeks, who'd made her feel seen, heard, valued, who was offering her something that looked suspiciously like escape. Her finger hovered over the reply button. She could text back, could say thank you, could open that door just a crack and see what was on the other side. What would it hurt? Just a conversation with someone who treated her like a human being? But Minho's threat echoed in her head. Your father's debt comes back, with interest. She'd already sacrificed so much for her father. Could she sacrifice the possibility of kindness too? Down the hall, Minho stood in his bedroom, staring at the city lights through his floor-to-ceiling windows without really seeing them. His hands shook slightly. From rage or something else, he couldn't tell. He poured himself a drink from the bar in his room. Whiskey. Neat, expensive enough that most people couldn't afford it. It burned going down, but did nothing to calm the storm in his chest. He kept seeing it. Nala looking up at Ji-hoon with tears in her eyes, seeking comfort from someone else, accepting his card, letting him touch her arm, looking at another man like he was a lifeline. The glass hit the bar harder than he intended. That looked like it was quite the evening. Minho turned to find Yoonji standing in his bedroom doorway, no longer in the rumpled pink dress from earlier, but wearing something else, a silk nightgown that left little to the imagination, clearly borrowed from somewhere or brought with her. Her injured hand was still bandaged, but she held it delicately, using it as a prop. "How's your hand?" he asked automatically, his voice flat and tired. "It hurts," Yoonji said softly, stepping into the room and closing the door behind her. "But I'll survive. I'm tougher than I look." She crossed the room slowly, deliberately, each step calculated. "Why are you in my room?" Minho's voice carried an edge now. "I told you to use the guest room. You should be resting." "I missed you," Yoonjae said, her voice dropping to a whisper as she moved closer. "The house felt so empty with you gone. I thought I'd surprise you when you got back. Wait for you here, instead of in that cold guest room all alone." She reached him, her good hand coming up to rest on his chest. "I'm sorry I couldn't go to the dinner. I know you wanted me there instead of her." Yoonjae. "Shh." She pressed a finger to his lips, then slowly removed it, letting her hand trail down his chest. "Let me help you forget about tonight. About her. About everything." She started moving, swaying her hips in a slow, sensual rhythm to music only she could hear. Her body moved with practiced grace, the silk nightgown clinging to her curves as she danced for him. Her good hand traveled over his chest, his shoulders, down his arms. "You're so tense," she purred, pressing closer. "Let me help you relax. Let me show you what you've been missing." But Minho's mind was elsewhere. Even as Eunjae's body moved against his, even as she used every seductive trick she'd perfected over years of wanting him, all he could see was another woman. Another moment, Nala standing in his penthouse that first night, desperate, terrified, wrapped in nothing but a towel that was too small to cover everything. Her hands shaking as she'd reached for the towel's edge. The way she'd looked at him, not with desire, but with resignation. Like she was preparing to sacrifice something sacred on an altar she didn't choose. The tremble in her voice when she'd offered herself. The tears she'd tried to hide. And then the towel had dropped. He'd seen everything. Her beautiful body, yes, but more than that. He'd seen her shame, her fear, her desperate love for her father that had driven her to this moment. He'd seen a woman breaking herself into pieces to save someone she loved. And instead of taking what she offered, he demanded more. Demanded 2 years, demanded marriage, demanded ownership instead of just one night. Why had he done that? "Minho?" Yoonji's voice pulled him back. She was pressed fully against him now, her lips near his ear. "Where did you go just now?" He blinked, focusing on her face. Beautiful, perfect, exactly what he should want. But all he could see was Nala's face. The devastation in her eyes tonight when he'd thrown her sacrifice back at her. The way she'd asked what she was to him. "Stop," he said quietly, stepping back from Yoonjae's embrace. "What?" She looked confused, hurt. "But I thought, how's your hand really?" he asked, changing the subject, his voice businesslike. "And your knee? You said earlier it was bothering you from the fall." "They're fine," Yoonjae said, frustration creeping into her voice. "I'm fine. Minho, I'm trying to... You should rest." He moved further away, creating distance. "Your injuries need time to heal. You shouldn't be moving around so much, dancing like that. You might hurt yourself worse." "I don't care about my injuries right now." Yoonjae's voice rose, desperation bleeding through. "I care about you, about us. Can't you see what I'm offering you?" Minho looked at her, really looked at her, saw the desperation, the need, the years of wanting him written across her face, and felt nothing. No desire, no temptation, just a vague sense of exhaustion. "Get some rest, Yoonji," he said, his voice gentle but final. Your hand needs to heal. Go back to the guest room and sleep. We'll talk in the morning. Talk? Her voice cracked. That's all you ever want to do. Or not even that, you mostly just want me to leave. What does she have that I don't? Minho didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because he didn't know himself. Just rest, he repeated. Don't put pressure on your knee. You need to be careful or it won't heal properly. His phone buzzed, saving him from having to physically remove her. A message from one of the people at the event. An email forward, actually. An article already posted on a society blog. The headline, Ice Prince melts? Kang Minho's mysterious wife causes stir at exclusive event. Below it, photos. Lots of photos. But one in particular made him stop breathing. It was from earlier in the evening before everything went to hell. Minho and Nala at the event, captured by some photographer's lens at the exact moment he'd been looking at her. She looked stunning. The emerald dress, the elegant styling, her skin glowing under the lights. But it was his expression that made him stare. He barely recognized himself. His face, usually so carefully controlled, showed everything. The possessiveness in the way his hand rested on her back, the intensity in his eyes as he looked at her, the slight softening around his mouth that might have been the beginning of a smile. Do you see now? Ngunji's voice was bitter behind him. Everyone's going to be talking about this, about her, about how the great Kang Minho is suddenly soft for some foreign girl who doesn't belong here. He moved toward the door, essentially dismissing her from his own room. Minho, please. Yunji's voice was breaking now, all pretense of seduction gone, replaced by raw desperation. Don't leave. Stay with me. I can make you forget about her. I can... Good night, Yunji. He walked out, closing the door behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than a slam would have. Behind the closed door, Yunji stood frozen in the middle of his room, her silk nightgown suddenly feeling ridiculous. Her seduction attempt lying in ruins around her. Minho, she called out, her voice desperate, cracking. Come back, please. Don't leave me here alone. But his footsteps were already moving away down the hall, leaving her standing there in his bedroom, surrounded by his things, wearing practically nothing, and feeling more rejected than she'd ever felt in her life. She sank onto his bed, her good hand pressed to her mouth to muffle a sob. Even her injured hand throbbed with pain she'd been ignoring in her attempt to seduce him. Everything hurt. Everything was falling apart. And he'd walked away without a backward glance. Minho stood in the hallway, listening to Yoonjae's muffled crying through the door, and felt nothing but a hollow ache that had nothing to do with her. He found himself walking down the hall, his feet carrying him without conscious decision. He stopped outside Nala's door, his hand raised to knock, trembling slightly in the dim light. He wanted to... what? Apologize? Explain? Tell her that Ji-hoon's interest had triggered something primitive in him, something possessive and irrational that he couldn't control? Tell her that watching her look at another man like he was her salvation had felt like being stabbed? But the words wouldn't come. They stayed lodged in his throat, too big and complicated and terrifying to give voice to. His hand dropped. He couldn't do this. Couldn't open this door. Couldn't examine these feelings. Couldn't acknowledge what was happening to him. Because if he did, if he admitted that she'd become something more than a business arrangement, then he'd have to face what that meant. And he wasn't ready for that. Minho stood outside her door for another 10 minutes, maybe 20, listening to the silence and wondering if she was sleeping or lying awake like he'd been. Finally, he turned and walked away. But he couldn't go back to his room. Not with Yoonji's perfume still lingering in the air. Not with that photo still on his phone. Not with everything spinning out of his control. He went to the living room instead. Poured another drink. Sat on the couch in the dark and watched the city lights until exhaustion finally claimed him sometime before dawn. When Nala emerged from her room the next morning, eyes red and swollen from crying, She was making coffee with shaking hands when she heard footsteps behind her. Yoonjae, still here, still in yesterday's night dress she wore. Hair slightly messed, makeup smudged, looking like she'd spent the night with Minho. "Good morning," Yoonjae said with a smile like poison honey. "Sleep well? I hope we didn't keep you up with all the noise." Nala's hand stilled on the coffee pot. "Excuse me? Oh, didn't Minho tell you?" Yoonjae's smile widened, sharp and victorious. "After you ruined his important dinner with your little scene, he needed comfort, and I was happy to provide it." She stretched languidly, deliberately, like a cat showing off. "It was quite a wonderful night. He really needed the release after dealing with your drama. You understand, don't you? A man has needs, and when his wife can't fulfill them..." The implication hung heavy in the air. Nala felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. She knew Yoonjae was probably lying, or at least exaggerating, but the seed of doubt was planted. Minho's bedroom was down that hall. Yoonjae was here, in yesterday's clothes, looking satisfied. But it wasn't her business. "Of course, I'm sure you don't mind," Yoonjae continued, examining her nails with false casualness. "It's not like this is a real marriage anyway, right? Just business. So what does it matter if he seeks comfort elsewhere? If he needs a real woman who knows how to please him?" "I don't care," Nala said quietly. "What was that?" "I don't care. Just get out and leave me alone." Nala's voice was stronger now. "Cold and empty. Get out of this kitchen. Get out of this penthouse. Get out of my sight." Yoonjae's smile faltered slightly. "This isn't your penthouse. It's Minho's. And he wants me here. If he wanted you here, he would have married you a long time ago." The words came from somewhere deep inside, some last reserve of strength Nala didn't know she had. You're still playing the same desperate game, still chasing a man who doesn't want you. And that makes you pathetic. Yoonjae's face flushed with rage. "How dare you, desperate psycho." Nala turned her back on her, dismissing her the way Minho dismissed Nala. "I have nothing more to say to you." She heard Yoonjae huff indignantly, heard the click of heels on marble, heard the front door open and slam closed. Only then did Nala let herself sink to the floor, her legs giving out, her whole body shaking. She didn't know if Yoonjae was lying, didn't know if Minho had actually been with her last night, but she didn't understand why it somehow bothered her. Her phone buzzed in her hand, pulling her from her thoughts. Another message from Ji-hoon. "Are you up for lunch, Mrs. Kang?" "Oh, sorry, I meant Mrs. Thompson? I doubt you've really seen the city. The real Seoul, not just penthouses and formal events. Would you like to have lunch with me? Let me show you the beauty of this place. What do you say? Are you up for it? JH." Nala stared at the message, at this lifeline being offered by a man who was essentially a stranger. Her finger hovered over the reply button. One word. That's all it would take. One word and she could open that door, could reach out to someone who seemed to genuinely care whether she was drowning. But what would it cost? What would Minho do if he found out? Would he really call in her father's debt? Would he destroy the man she'd sacrificed everything to save? Her finger stayed suspended over the screen, trembling, unable to commit to either choice. Behind her, the coffee maker beeped, announcing the brew was ready. Seoul City sounds filtered in through the windows, car horns, distant sirens, the hum of millions of lives being lived. Normal sounds for a normal morning, but nothing about this was normal. Nothing about her life was normal anymore. And as she sat there on the kitchen floor, phone in hand, Ji-hoon's offer glowing on the screen, Nala realized she was standing at a crossroads. One path led to continued suffering, to a man who couldn't decide whether she was his possession or his burden. The other led into the unknown, to a stranger's kindness that might be genuine or might be another trap. Either way, she was trapped. Either way, she lost. But at least with Ji-hoon, someone was offering her a choice. And God, she was so starved for choice, for agency, for the simple dignity of making her own decisions that even the illusion of it felt like oxygen. Her thumb hovered over the reply button. In the penthouse, alone, with a decision that could change everything. Will she accept Ji-hoon's invitation? After everything Minho has done, after Eunjae's claims about their night together, after being treated like she's nothing, will Nala finally choose something for herself? Or will the threat to her father keep her trapped? Drop your vote in the comments. Yes. Accept Ji-hoon's lunch invitation? No. Stay loyal to the contract. What would you do in her position? Let us know. Subscribe so you don't miss part 5. The tension is about to explode.